Good evening and welcome to Poland Daily, the first English news program in Poland. I'm your host, Benjamin Lee. The leader of the ruling Law and Justice Party, Jarosław Kaczyński, stressed the importance of the EU membership of Poland during his speech in the city of Poznan as part of the ongoing campaign for the upcoming European Parliament elections. The EU membership is permanently tied to Polish patriotism, said Kaczyński in his speech, bringing an end to the accusations of the opposition that the ruling party intended to follow Great Britain's footsteps and leave the EU.
When we look at the foreign policies of modern countries, the international policies, we can divide them into three aspects: security, which is the most important one; status, meaning a permanent position of the state in relation to other countries; and finally non-permanent position, which is changeable since countries with higher status, like the US, have higher or lower position. It often varies. No matter at what aspect we look, Poland's EU membership is beneficial to Poland. Thanks to the EU, we have better security, we have even better status, and we can gain better position. We can gain better position, in example, regionally, like in the Visegrad Group. In short, the EU membership is permanently tied to Polish patriotism. It's important not only for building our own position, achieving our successes and taking care of our interests. It's also important in the long-term perspective. The European Union needs to be strong and get stronger to survive. The EU needs to be a club, and let's stick to that word, a club of equal nations. If that's not the case, we will have crisis after crisis. That's why when we fight for the equal treatment in the EU, we are actually fighting for the strengthening of EU as a whole.
About a month from now, Poles will go to the polls to elect a new Polish representatives to the European Parliament. For the opposition's party, this election opens a window to challenge the ruling Law and Justice Party for the first time in years. The odds are good, as the European election routinely features lower voter turnout, while most of the turnout clustered in polling sites that are traditionally strongholds of the opposition. Poznan, one of the towns heavily favoring the opposition, saw an assembly of all the leaders of the European coalition to convey their message to the voters, focusing heavy fire towards the ruling Law and Justice Party.
In his speeches, the leader of the Civic Platform focused on fear tactics revolving around the Law and Justice Party and its leader, Jarosław Kaczyński. Moreover, Schetyna warned that the country has a problem with growing fascism, with the symbol being the marches with the torches.
You are looking for Nazis among teachers, and you do not see neo-fascists under your own nose. This is unworthy, and it will end. Instead of a serious conversation with teachers, you made a propaganda show at the stadium.
Dorota Kania, editor-in-chief of the Telewizja Republika, refuted the claim, saying that just a few years ago it was the members of the Civic Platform Party who marched with burning torches. Schetyna saw burning torches and speaks about brown marches. Schetyna congratulated teachers' union for suspended strike and promised that he will deliver their demands if elected to power. Peasant Party's leader said that he will preserve Christian values. The claims seem to be at odds with the extreme left SLD party that is also a member of the European coalition.
We will defend the values, these Christian values, the values of European civilization, the value of respect for every human being. This is our conservative anchor, the Christian democratic anchor here in Wielkopolska.
Former Prime Minister Leszek Miller from the post-communist party SLD, who is running for the second place in Poznań, made allegations to Polexit attempt by the Law and Justice Party.
If someone says that the EU has not given anything to Poland and that Poland does not need the EU, it is either stupid or is from the Law and Justice leadership.
Elections to the European Parliament will take place in the month on May 26th, but the heated tension on the election can already be felt.
The American ambassador in Poland, Georgette Mosbacher, came out with a clarification today in regards of the property restitution bill signed by the US President Donald Trump, stressing that the goal of the bill was not meant to issue any direct order, but merely to point out the problem surrounding the controversy.
You know, I think there's a misunderstanding of what the JUST Act is. It is a report, a one-time report. It doesn't tell anybody what to do. It has no numbers in it in terms of how much or anything like that. It is a one-time report about countries and what progress they've made. That's all it is, a one-time report. Dictates nothing. It's simple information.
The case of return of property to the American citizens of Jewish origin is entirely regulated. This topic does not currently exist. Poland is completely safe in this regard. It is us that are in the right to demand the amend.
One of the parishes in the city of Płock has been taped with posters showing Holy Mary with little baby Jesus surrounded by rainbow halos. The head of the Ministry of the Interior and Administration referred to the incident as an act of cultural barbarism. He also announced that the police will take actions on this matter. The General Police Headquarters of Poland and the headquarters of the Military Police has launched a motorcycle season as a part of the Safe Single Track Driving Act. The goal of the event is to promote good and safe behaviors of the motorcycle riders.
The motorcycle season has just been opened. During the season, automobile drivers should pay extra caution to their rear-view mirrors.
To jest bardzo barwna grupa uczestników ruchu drogowego.
This is a very colorful group of road users, but they're wrongly perceived as hooligans, and they're absolutely not like that. The great majority of crashes are not caused by the motorcyclists, but other folk who share the road.
Tylko inni uczestnicy ruchu drogowego.
The members of the motorcycle clubs took part in the official opening of the motorcycle season held by the police and military police.
Our club was established 6 years ago. It includes the officials of the military police and the soldiers of other kinds of armed forces.
As the motorcycle club members claim, to be a motorbiker is a lifestyle.
In June, we're planning to go to Russia to visit some cemeteries and places like Smolensk and Katyń. We're planning to go there for a couple of days, from June 3rd to June 15th.
The most important thing here is safety. A motorcycle rider has to wear special gear and protection.
You can buy a cheaper motorcycle, but the suit, the helmet and the shoes must be good, no matter how much they cost.
Priests are also seen amongst the bikers. They travel on motors and proclaim their faith.
We established our club 5 years ago. This is the only motorcycle club like that. We called ourselves the God's Guards. There is no other priests' motorcycle club in the world. Our members are the priests only. Our club has 167 members.
The data concerning the past year, 2018, paints an alarming picture. Over 200 motorcyclists died, with the majority of them from crashes.
That's it for today. See you next time on Poland Daily. But stay tuned for the Poland Daily Weather Report, followed by the Poland Daily Business section.
Welcome to Poland Daily Weather. Let's see the forecast for tonight. On South Poland, sky will be cloudless. On the northwest, rainfall will appear. In all regions, temperature will be still high. A pleasant 15 degrees we will see in Rzeszów and 16 in Warsaw. The lowest temperature is expected on the northwest, which will range from 9 to 11 degrees. Let's see the forecast for tomorrow. In most regions, we may expect plenty of sunlight. The most sun will be around Olsztyn and Gdańsk. Rain is expected on the south and along the Baltic coast. Temperatures ranging from 9 degrees in Kraków and Katowice to 18 in Bydgoszcz. The wind will be less gusty in the whole country. Let's check the weather for the next days. On Tuesday, rainfall will leave our country. Lots of sun is expected in all regions. Temperature will rise to 17 degrees. On Wednesday, temperatures will be similar. Maximum temperature will be 17 degrees on the west. On Thursday, temperatures will rise to 19 degrees on the southwest. Pressure will fall. Thank you for watching and goodbye.
Poland Daily Business Edition. Tonight we will talk about China and how the China reacts to Poland. Our guest and specialist on the field is Maria Jaskot of Do Rzeczy Weekly. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
You basically returned from the Far East and you know the stories firsthand, so please tell us, do the Chinese know that there is an European country called Poland, and how to pronounce the name, and basically how to make business with us?
Yes, so just on Saturday I came from Shenzhen, which is a huge 12 million people city in China. And I was able there to meet with one of the CEOs of Huawei, who started talking to journalists, to Polish journalists, with words, "I wish that Huawei would be so strong and so fierce in fighting as Poland during the World War II." And then he said that...
Hopefully not with the same results.
Hopefully not the same results, exactly. But he also said that at school they learn about 3 Polish people, and that is Copernicus, Maria Skłodowska-Curie, and Chopin, of course.
Fantastic.
So they focus mostly on science and on technology, and that's what's actually their main interest also when it comes to Poland. And I was talking to a lot of Chinese people about Poland, also the workers of Huawei, but some experts, and they told me, first of all, that we focus too much on politics, that the whole nation is, and also the media talks all the time about politics, and that we waste a lot of time on it instead of just looking forward and trying to find innovations and try to...
This is what you heard from the Chinese people who are actually know something about Poland. They are observing our little playing ground here from the far distance.
Yes, that's what they told me. And they told me also one thing that, for example, in China, when they have a new innovation, first they implement it on the market and it works. First, they try to see how it works on the market. And so when they have a WeChat instead of American communication, so instead of Messenger or Instagram or WhatsApp, and through WeChat, they also can make payments right now. And it started around a year ago, and it worked for a year totally without any regulations. And now the regulations are created. So that's what they told me, is that the government knows that they cannot keep up with innovations as quickly as they are created, because it goes too quickly, and they want it to go quickly. They want people to find new ways. So first you can easily implement something on a market, and then regulations come.
Let us return to this Polish question. Are there any Polish products that the Chinese would accept from us?
Yes. That's the thing. Especially Polish products when it comes to all kinds of food, so milk or milk products, cheese, but also meat. We have a great meat, like our quality of meat, of milk products, of apples, of all fruits is really one of the best in the world. Our cheese is better than, and they know it when they try it. But on the other hand,
how can they try it if it's not on the market?
Of course, when they come to Poland or when they have any contacts. But this is what they told me, that Polish companies have no recognition of Chinese market. But even though Chinese market is huge, and of course there are a few billion people who need to buy all of those products, we make absolutely no advertisement there. There's no commercials, and commercials specific for Chinese markets. I mean, it is already a developed market. Those are people who also need to know more. We do have
one trading organization, the fruit producers, the meat producers. There is a Polish Chamber of Commerce that should organize this kind of effort, because the imbalance in trade is amazing. It's like 20 billion euro versus 12 or 10 or something like that. It's like 1 to 10, 1 to 20 difference.
2 weeks ago, I was on a trip with our Prime Minister Maria Jaskot to Dubrovnik on the summit to meet also Prime Minister of China. And on a meeting with journalists, our Prime Minister underlined very strongly that we want to change the difference between import and export between China and Poland. But it won't be possible
Will
to...
be able to demand from China to accept Polish products on their market?
They want to. Actually, they already want to, because we have very good quality on many levels. But what we have to do, like our Polish the Chief of Commerce, the staff, it shouldn't be 100 people. We should send them there 10,000 people who will go and try to make a recognition of Chinese
with a
market.
particular goal, like dispatch them to the local cities and just go from one store to another. This is our list of products. We can deliver it to you. Like from next month on or something like that. Yeah?
Yes, and to try to copy their advertisement and get to people, because an average Chinese person knows nothing about Poland and has no image. So what we have to do, and that's a huge role of our government as well, is to create an image of Poland. As Switzerland have an image of a great chocolate and cheese low taxes, and Germany has an image of a great quality cars, we should have an image, for example, of great quality food.
Right.
And like Poland is already...
Are there any industrial products they can accept from us, except copper?
Yes.
Which goes as a raw product?
Makeup and all beauty industry. Poland is a 20th
There is a
economy.
famous company, Ingold, right?
Yes, and Poland is a 20th economy right now in the world, with no global brand recognition. And the only brand recognition in the world right now is England becoming one in the world.
And a private businessman here from Warsaw who ran the stores and found out that the one store in Saudi Arabia or in Dubai makes the turnover comparing to the whole stores in Warsaw.
But we have, of course, other companies like in beauty industry which make products of a good quality in low prices, and that is a huge opportunity. Also, our Prime Minister already talked about it, but it's still too little. When he goes to Dubrovnik and he meets only for 20 minutes with Chinese Prime Minister, he should also take many or CEOs and representatives of different companies, so they can talk about their specific problems and really represent it, because it won't go from up only.
This is like popular demand. I can imagine that every single prime minister of every single Western country has the same problem, because everyone has this imbalance with China. And our hope, ladies and gentlemen, is in beauty products. So says Maria Jaskot. Thank you very much for participation in this show. And that was it for tonight's Poland Daily Business.
Welcome back to Poland Daily Weather. Let's see the forecast for tomorrow. In most regions we may expect plenty of sunlight. The most sun will be around Olsztyn and Gdańsk. Rains expected on the south and along the Baltic coast. Temperatures ranging about 9 degrees in Kraków and Katowice to 18 in Bydgoszcz. The wind will be less gusty in the whole country. Let's take a look at the forecast for our continent. In the Balkans, temperature will increase and will range from 23 to 25 degrees in Sofia. On the South Europe, temperatures will range about 20-24 degrees. In British Islands, we will expect rainfall, but sunlight will appear as well. In Scandinavia, temperatures will fall to 14 degrees in Oslo and 16 in Stockholm. Thank you for watching and goodbye.
Hello, this is Poland Daily Culture. I'm Paulina Otterstein, and today we're in Czarnolas, where Jan Kochanowski, a great 16th century poet, used to live and work. Let's go.
Thou hast made all the house an empty thing. Dear Ursula, by this thy vanishing, though we are here, it's yet a vacant place. One little soul, and filled so great a space. For thou didst sing thy joyousness to all, running through every nook of house and hall. Thou wouldst not have thy mother grieve, nor let thy father with too solemn thinking fret his head, but thou must kiss them, daughter mine, and all with that entrancing laugh of thine. Now on the house has fallen a dumb blight. Thou wilt not come with archness and delight, but every corner lodges lurking grief, and all in vain the heart would seek relief.
I also would like to ask you about Kochanowski's life stages. Could you tell me something about it?
Kochanowskiego literaturoznawcy dzielą na 3 okresy. Okres młodości.
A biography of literary scholar Jan Kochanowski is divided into 3 periods. First is the period of his youth, when Kochanowski studied at the University of Padua and traveled through the Apennine Peninsula. He visited Rome, Naples, and Venice. Each of these journeys had an influence on his work. Another period began after his studies and journeys. It's often called a royal court period, because Kochanowski spent some time of his life at Zygmunt II Augustus' royal court. The third period, the Czarnolas period, began around the year 1572. This is the period of his family life. Kochanowski got married somewhere around 1575. Then his children were born. He finished there the translation of the Psalter. In 1571, he had already translated 30 psalms. During his life, he translated 150. So he finished the Psalter, but also the dismissal of the Greek envoys. He wrote many epigrams during the Czarnolesie period, especially those that are included in the 3rd tome. The entire collection consists of 3 tomes. The 1st, the 2nd, and the 3rd. In the 2nd one, we can find epigrams written during Kochanowski's time at the royal court. The 3rd tome was written in Czarnolas. The laments and many other occasional works were created there. So those periods are distinguished in the literary tradition, and that's how they shape and divide.
Wyróżnia się zwyczajowo w tradycji literackiej i tak się one kształtują, tak się one dzielą.
Did Kochanowski's mother had an impact on his development and character?
Myślę, że tak, bez wątpienia. Dom rodzinny Jana Kochanowskiego w Sycynie, bo Kochanowski przyszedł na świat w Sycynie.
Without a doubt, Jan Kochanowski's family house was located in Sycyna. Kochanowski was born there, and Jan Kochanowski's family stood out from the surrounding nobility. And I think it was because of his mother, who was such an individuality of the era. She also has her place in literary works. A friend of the house, Górniewski, mentions her unusual sense of humor in his work. He was also a Polish courtier. Anna Kochanowska did well in legal matters after her husband's death. Some say that she had an outstanding judicial talent because her husband passed away and left her with unregulated legal matters, and she, along with Jan Kochanowski and her older son Kacper, coped well with ordering all financial matters. She was very close to Jan Kochanowski. Undoubtedly, she had a huge impact on his spiritual development, at least in the period of his youth, before he came out of motherly care. But also, in the 19th lament, which ends the entire series, Kochanowski speaks to his mother. And this is an example that he asks for her help in difficult times. Then she gives him an advice. She comes to him in a dream and tells him that everything happens for a reason and that he has to take his unhappy gift of life with the dignity of a man.
Jakby nieszczęśliwego, ale ofiarował z należytą godnością po prostu człowieka.
Jan Kochanowski was a Polish Renaissance poet who established poetic patterns that would become integral to the Polish literary language. He is commonly regarded as the greatest Polish poet before Adam Mickiewicz and the greatest Slavic poet prior to the 19th century. Kochanowski was born at Sycyna near Radom, Poland. Little is known of his early education. At 14, fluent in Latin, he was sent to the Kraków Academy. After graduating in 1547, at age 17, he attended the University of Königsberg in Ducal Prussia and Padua University in Italy. At Padua, Kochanowski came in contact with the great humanist scholar Francesco Robotello. Kochanowski closed his 15-year period of studies and travels with a final visit to France, where he met the poet Pierre Ronsard. In 1559, Kochanowski returned to Poland for good, where he remained active as a humanist and Renaissance poet. He spent the next 15 years close to the court of King Sigismund II Augustus, serving for a time as royal secretary. Kochanowski settled on a family estate at Czarnolas, Blackwood, to lead the life of a country squire. In 1575, he married Dorota Podlodowska, with whom he had 7 children. Kochanowski is sometimes referred to in Polish as Jan z Czarnolasu, John of Blackwood. It was there that he wrote his most memorable works, including The Dismissal of the Greek Envoys and The Laments. Kochanowski died, probably of a heart attack, in Lublin on August 22, 1584.
Czy możemy wskazać
Can we point out some famous people or icons of that time that visited Kochanowski's house during his childhood, youth or the Czarnolas period?
Później, kiedy już miał tu w Czarnolesie swój dom.
Kochanowski na przestrzeni swoich studiów i w Polsce, i potem za granicą we Włoszech nawiązał wiele przyjaźni. Które właśnie trwały przez całe jego życie.
Kochanowski made a lot of friends during his studies here in Poland, abroad, in Italy. His friendships have lasted his entire life. In his poem, Jan Kochanowski mentioned Jan Temczyński, who also studied in Italy. There's actually a love story associated with Jan Temczyński. During his royal mission in Sweden, he fell in love with the Swedish princess. Then he organized a great trip to Sweden through the Baltic Sea to get her. He was arrested by the Danish services. He died in prison in Copenhagen at a very young age. This story was known throughout Poland. Everyone was shocked by this story. Kochanowski had many other friends who were also writing poems or were with him at the royal court. I already mentioned Jan Zamoyski, his patron, who was an extremely important person, an important authority to him. He corresponded with his friends from the University of Padua, among others with Stanisław Folgeweder. Many correspondences didn't survive, but the one with Folgeweder, who was a clergyman and also a royal courtier, did. Thanks to this correspondence, he found out that Kochanowski put a lot of effort in David's Psalter, and it took him 10 years of his lifetime. This is not an ordinary linguistic translation, but it's a paraphrase. It was a great poetic challenge because psalms are written in prose, and he paraphrased the biblical text into a poem. So it was something genius. But as I say, it was the work of his life.
Więc to było coś genialnego, ale tak jak mówię, to było dzieło jego życia.
Kochanowski zaczął tworzyć i był jakby...
Kochanowski was a pioneer in what he was doing. He knew how to show his emotions, experiences through the poetry. Why should we remember him as a great Polish poet? And why should we keep his memory alive?
Przekazywać to z pokolenia na pokolenie.
Mówiliśmy już o tym, że Kochanowski był twórcą.
We have already talked about the fact that Kochanowski was the creator of Polish poetry. In fact, Kochanowski created Polish poetry because no one before him introduced as many means of artistic expression as Jan Kochanowski. He was the one who started to create a truly artistic poetry. He used a lot of synonymous phrases. He often paraphrased his poetry. He created a high-level poetry in Poland at that time. This is exactly why contemporary artists are delighted by his work. He's been a great authority for many, many artists of the next periods of time until the Romantic period, when he had Słowacki, Mickiewicz and Norwid. Even today's artists often call themselves students of Jan Kochanowski, for example, Konstanty Ildefonс Gałczyński. So everything he did appeared in Poland for the first time. He introduced literary genres, so far unknown and different artistic forms, which he used in his poetry.
Właśnie różne formy artystyczne, które wykorzystywał w swojej poezji.
Dziękuję bardzo pani za rozmowę. Thank you very much.
Dziękuję bardzo.
As you already know from our episode, we're in Czarnolas in Poland, and it's a place that played a very important role in Kochanowski's life because not only he lived here with his family and children, but also he wrote one of his most famous pieces, the Lamentations, exactly here where we're now. And not only there's a beautiful museum behind us, but also this place is surrounded by a very, very beautiful park. It's a place worth visiting for everyone coming to Poland, and I assure you that you're gonna love it. Join us again on our next episode of Poland Daily Culture, and we also have a new YouTube channel called Poland Daily Live, so don't forget to subscribe to it. See you soon.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Poland Daily History. Today we are at the city of Lublin, one of the largest and most historical cities of Eastern Poland. We will be speaking to Mr. Hubert Mącik, Chief Heritage Protection Officer, about some of the most beautiful buildings of Lublin and the history behind them. As I was going around the city, I noticed a lot of Renaissance influence in the buildings around here, specifically in Lublin and the cities around this region. I was wondering what gave it the influence and what are the architectural styles that came out of it.
W Lublinie możemy spotkać właściwie wszystkie style architektury europejskiej historycznej.
In Lublin, we can find almost every European architectural style. The oldest monument in the town, the Castle Tower, was made in a Romanesque style in the end of the 13th century.
W Lublinie zbyt wiele. Przede wszystkim dlatego, że w XVI wieku Lublin był miastem bardzo bogatym.
Unfortunately, not much of the medieval architecture remained in Lublin. First and foremost, due to the fact that in the 16th century, Lublin was a very affluent city. That's why most of the old buildings were rebuilt in a new Renaissance style. It often happens that times of peace and prosperity bring about the changes to the architecture. That's exactly what happened here in the 16th century.
Na szlaku wymiany handlowej pomiędzy wschodem a zachodem Europy.
At the time, Lublin was one of the greatest trade centers in this part of Europe. It was also one of the most important stops on the east-west European trade route.
Z Wołynia, z Łódzka I z całej Rusi.
The Lublin Fairs, which took place in February and July, gathered many ox merchants who brought the cattle from Wołyń and all of the Ruthenia, and later sent them through Wrocław to Leipzig and to the rest of Europe.
Fundację nowych kościołów, klasztorów.
Thanks to that, the city became very rich, and its citizens could build new tenement houses, churches and chapels.
Przede wszystkim byli to ludzie pochodzący z nadjeziora Como I z pogranicza Włoch I Szwajcarii, tak zwani Komaskowie.
What's interesting, the city's wealth drew to itself Italian architects and constructors. They came mainly from the area of Lake Como, between the borders of Italy and Switzerland. They were the so-called Comasians. It was a very charismatic group of constructors and architects.
Z czym później ci tak zwani Komaskowie zapełniali jako fachowcy właściwie niemal całą Europę.
This line of work was very popular at the Como region, in the Alps between Switzerland and Italy. Almost every young man there learned this craft.
Fachowców budowlańców. Nic zatem dziwnego w tym, że przenosili tutaj takie formy architektury, jakie widzieli wcześniej u siebie.
The Comasians then spread out across the globe, from Moscow in the east to London in the west. They also came to Poland. In Lublin, there were the majority of constructors, so it's not surprising that they brought their local architectural trends with them.
Lublin czasem, zwłaszcza dla Włochów, dla ludzi z basenu Morza Śródziemnego, wydaje się być takim miastem bardzo podobnym do miast włoskich.
They would often decide to stay here in Lublin, while some of them, after gathering substantial wealth over a few decades, came back to their homeland.
Takie malownicze krzywizny, niewielkie placyki.
That's how Lublin's buildings got their Italian style. Nowadays, many Italians who come to Lublin are surprised how much it feels like home. Small alleys, more curved streets, beautiful little squares. All this makes Lublin feel like an Italian city.
Charakterystyczne to kościół dominikanów, który...
That is also how the Renaissance style came here, which we can see first and foremost in Lublin's churches. The Dominicans Church, the Jesuit Church, which is now a cathedral, although that one is more Baroque than Renaissance, Church of the Conversion of St. Paul, built for the Bernardines in the 15th century, or the churches of Carmelites and Barefoot Carmelites. At the beginning of 17th century, all the older churches were rebuilt and several new ones were constructed, all in the new, beautiful style called the Lublin Renaissance.
Może trochę nieprecyzyjnie, ale dość ciekawie, malowniczo, renesansem lubelskim.
A lot of the residential buildings here in the Old Town are centuries of years old, and I was wondering how the building style developed throughout the years. Were there any changes?
Najstarsze fragmenty kamienic na lubelskim Starym Mieście pochodzą jeszcze z początku XV wieku.
The oldest parts of Lublin tenement houses date back to the 15th century. However, not much of the Gothic style remained, due to the fact that most of the city's architecture was rebuilt, as the Italian constructors came and the estate owners became wealthier.
Szczególnie trzeba tutaj zwrócić uwagę na dwie kamienice.
Two tenement houses are especially worth mentioning. One is located at the Rynek 8th Street, close to us, called the Lubomielskich, and the so-called Konopniców tenement house, located at Rynek 12.
Wewnętrzną, renesansową, ze znakomitą kamieniarką, pięknymi obramieniami kamiennymi okien, z stylizowanymi smokami.
The Konopniców tenement house was wonderful Renaissance decor with beautiful stone frames around windows, carved dragons and other mythical creatures. This estate was decorated by Santi Cucino Fiorentino, an Italian sculptor who came to Poland in the 16th century and settled in Pinczów.
Zachowały się we wnętrzach znakomite polichromy.
The Lubomielski's tenement house, which I mentioned earlier, is also very interesting, as inside there remained wonderful wall paintings of both religious and profane themes from the 16th century.
Szczęśliwie Lublin nie był zniszczony podczas II wojny światowej.
In many other tenement houses in Lublin, there are unique paintings from the 16th, 17th and 18th centuries, but also wooden ceilings and other architectural wonders from various eras, the oldest ones dating back to the 15th century.
Te renesansowe kamienice lubelskie były przebudowywane w późniejszych okresach.
The Renaissance-style buildings in Lublin were later rebuilt many times, and most of them remained in the 18th century form. It is also worth mentioning the decorations painted on Lublin's buildings during the post-war reconstruction of the city in the 1950s, which are very beautiful and interesting.
Między innymi możemy zobaczyć je na kamienicach przy rynku.
The old town in Lublin is full of buildings that are 4, 5 or 6 centuries old. For the city's heritage protection officer, Hubert Mącik, it presents a challenge to strike a good balance between preservation and adopting modern solutions to give the city centre and the crowds of tourists access to the amenities that are today considered essential.
For me, coming from California, the Lublin Old Town is vastly exotic in the sense that I see a lot of buildings that are centuries of years old. And for you as a heritage protection officer, what are the job you have to do, and what are the hurdles you have to go through to maintain the structures or the building architectures of these very old and elegant and beautiful buildings?
Nie jest to łatwe. Wymaga to bardzo ciężkiej pracy, również dużych środków.
It's definitely not easy. The main issue is preserving the historical look of the old town, but also the entire city in the times when cities are meant to be modernized above all.
Dążenie do tego, żeby adaptować te budynki do naszych współczesnych potrzeb.
We need to come up with clever ways to incorporate history into the city's infrastructure, but at the same time remember that they need to be functional. We want to keep as much of the historical look of the city as we can for the future generations. First and foremost, we want to pass on the national heritage.
Istotne. staramy się przekazywać dziedzictwo kulturowe kolejnym pokoleniom. Z jednej strony to jest problem.
On one side is the task of preserving the buildings themselves. On the other, we need to keep in mind the general landscape of the city. In cities such as Lublin, it is especially important, since the town has a very interesting landform. The old town, located on the hill, has a beautiful panoramic view, and we want to keep it that way. We can't allow two tall buildings to be constructed below the old town, as they could block the amazing view, as well as we cannot allow the river valley to be deformed too much. This of course creates many tensions between us and the developers, which want to build as much as they can, while my role is often to forbid them from doing so. But the most important thing is to keep a good balance between preserving the cultural heritage and making the city functional. Another issue is the agglomeration of tourists.
Oczywiście duże konflikty, ponieważ inwestorzy chcieliby budować jak najwięcej.
Lublin heavily relies on tourists, which is great, but at the same time they come here in huge numbers and they all have their needs. Hotels, restaurants, etc. These needs sometimes force us to adapt the tenement houses, make them more accessible, which is quite difficult in the small space of the old town. This creates conflicts between us and the suppliers for the restaurants or even the garbage trucks, but we usually manage to find common ground. Nonetheless, the most important value of the city's monuments is their historical value, so we should try and adapt their functionality to them, not the other way around. It's not easy, but with such a unique historical city, we need to keep in mind its long-term value, not the short-term income of the tourist industry.
Krótkoterminowy zysk, jaki mogliby chcieć przedsiębiorcy w tym obszarze.
The city of Lublin is not just one of the oldest cities of all of Poland, but also one of the best preserved. Thanks to the meticulous work of historians and the heritage protection officers, future generations will get the opportunity to witness centuries of history firsthand. That's it for today. I'm your host, Benjamin Lee. I'll see you next time on Poland Daily History.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another exciting edition of Poland Daily Travel, where you learn more about Poland here than in any other place in the world. Today, for this special edition and for the next couple of episodes, we're going to be in the studio. My guest is the loquacious and inimitable know-it-all Artur Górniewski. And we'll be examining together the greatest hits of Polish travel, places that you just won't want to miss when you come to Poland. We'll be skipping over Warsaw since we've covered it over the last few months extensively. And we'll be heading out in our minds to some of the great places like the Tri-City area, including Gdansk and Sopot and Gdynia, and the Hel Peninsula. We'll be talking about the Wolf's Lair, Hitler's explosive hideout in the Missouri and Warmia region of Poland in the northeast. Old Prussia, they call it. And we'll talk about some of the famous castles in Poland. Malbork, Nieborów, and Książ. Not all of them, but some of them, because there are a lot of really, really neat castles in Poland. And palaces. We'll take you on a journey in your mind to Krakow, to Zakopane, and we'll talk a little bit about Auschwitz, which is more of a center for pilgrimage than a tourist attraction, of course. And we'll take you to Białowieża Park on the eastern border with Belarus. There, the ancient bison roam. The lynx and the wolf are at home. It's also the oldest piece of forest left in the European Union. All this and more on the next couple of episodes of Poland Daily Travel. Hey, stick with us. Watch us on YouTube. And if you like it, just take a moment and click that like button. Poland Daily Travel. We do it for you. Thanks for watching. Another greatest hit, something that really, it's another exemplary and unique place in Poland, is Białowieża.
Yes.
The old primeval forest, the oldest primeval section of forest left in Europe. It's on the border of
Belarus.
Belarus.
Yes.
Right on the border. And part of it's in Belarus, part of it's in Poland. you have bison and wolves and the lynx, which is the small wildcat.
Yes.
Which are still here in Poland.
And amazing castle complex and a beautiful Russian Orthodox church to visit over there. A little bit of everything once again, original, preserved, and sometimes guests coming to Warsaw who already acknowledge the civilization and the buildings and the camps and everything. They just want to go to Białowieża to see how our forefathers in the ancient times were chasing bisons because it's a natural system that they were living in.
The bison is a native animal to exactly that part of the world, this part of the world. And not just buffalo on the American plains, but there were once...
That's our buffalo.
That's right. It's a cousin of the American buffalo and a very similar animal. And when you see them up close, you'll see that there's not a lot of difference. And boy, they're huge too, aren't they? When they're full grown, it's a very big animal. And there used to be massive herds of these.
Its head is 200 kilos.
200 kilos.
Of his head.
Just the head.
Yes.
Now they have this massive animal, and they just, you know, you get close, they just look at you.
And this is a moment when you are looking up.
Yeah, and you don't want to stare back at them, because you may get them excited. Anyway, so you will see those, and you can go on a tour on a wagon through the primeval forest. They will actually take you and show you where the bison are as well. So you can actually see these. You won't see wolves because they hide, and you won't see a lynx. I mean, nobody sees the lynx, which is the wildcat. I mean, you hardly ever see those. There's some near Warsaw too, in the Campinos forest, but people just don't see them. But this is a place which is amazing. Why do you think? Perhaps you know. I don't know. Why do you think it is that Białowieża was not survived without intact over these many hundreds and hundreds of years?
Well, that's
thousands of years.
That's not very important, let's say, tactic or strategic point for your army. You will not fortify yourself over there. This is a regular forest, so not good for army transportation and for fortification. And I think that's the main reason. It wasn't.
But you couldn't
important
clear it either. Why wasn't it cleared? Because there is farming right next to it. Why wasn't it cleared for farming? Was it kept as a preserve, even under the kings or something, for hunting? Or I'm just guessing, I don't know.
So that's, of course, that's a farming place. It was belonging to the area of Lithuania first.
Right,
So for a very long time it was Lithuania. Then when we created the Commonwealth, when the Union was confirmed first in 1385, and then the very important marriage of a Polish dignitary lady and the Duke of Lithuania, who was called as the strong guy in his area. These two got married, two countries became one, and Białowieża became in the central section of the 1 million square kilometers Commonwealth.
Wow.
And it's an amazing pearl that it survived.
Incredible. Well, I'm sorry to cut you off there. We've got to end now, because we're running close to the end of our time. Your favorite place in Poland? Would you have one quickly?
Warsaw.
Warsaw.
Yes, I am a Warsawian. I was born in here, and that's my favorite
Warsaw
place.
And its area.
And its area, exactly. And along the Vistula River, all the areas, north, south, east, west. This is my best.
Okay, well, let's leave it with that.
First in pecking
order. Warsaw. So it's a good thing we've been going around and seeing a lot of Warsaw. Okay, that's it. Greatest hits of Poland. Thank you for watching. Artur Górniewski, I'd like to thank my guest. He's a good man.
Thank you very much.
And as you can see, incredibly knowledgeable. And that's one of the things that's wonderful about having him, easy for me to say, having him as a guest. Okay, thanks for watching. Stay tuned for the next program. Catch us on YouTube. And if you enjoy the show, please give us a like. It means a lot to us, and it doesn't take you very long. Because, as always, we do this for you. Without you watching, there's no point in us being here. We hope you enjoy the show. Please give us a comment on YouTube. Thank you once again, Artur, and bye!